So I'm in here trying to lay this water line, and you can see I got a shelf of bedrock. So what I'm going to do is cut right through there, and I'm going to bring that water line down and around. I need the cut not only to drain the water that pools behind it, because once this is buried, if it's full of water, that'll freeze and crack all the lines. We don't want that. But also so that I can get this water line in. And it's kind of fascinating stuff. So this area right in here is essentially a giant glacial eddy. So Glacial Lake Missoula, when it ripped through here, tore these bedrock cliffs free, basically scoured them. They would have been bare washed earth. And notice right up in there, that is the remains of a waterfall. Well, let's just walk over. So here's the remains of a waterfall. You can see the water was coming over this shelf, which must have been slightly harder. Scoured out the stuff underneath. But most importantly, you'll notice all these rocks are rounded off when you compare to the hillside. That's not true. So we have these big rock shelves, and at one point the water was pouring through here when this escarpment must have peeled off. At that point the water went out over there, and there was a giant cliff face up at the base of the house there, and the water essentially began leapfrogging and eddying back into this area, leaving this deposit of pure just glacial silt and rock grindings. There, underneath the foot of the waterfall, there was a large pocket full of sand, pure sand, but for the most of it, it's these layers of just a fine silt, although there are a few intermittent sand layers mixed in. So back over here, it's what makes doing this work so difficult, because you have to open such huge holes to know where the bedrock is. Although I probably could have taken half of this out and probed it. But now I know I've got a wonderful little channel that I can bring that water line down in over here, and then I can go straight up and I can trench in that little spot right there, and I don't have to worry about blowing that line out, and it won't freeze and break. I also will put some styrofoam over the top. But it's kind of fascinating. When you get to the bedrock face, first you'll see it's smooth. You could skateboard on that once I swept it off. Perfectly smooth. And right at the very bottom layer, we're talking as you scrape the shovel along the bedrock, you've got this very sticky red clay with these tiny little pebbles in them, right like that. And I don't know why they're at the bottom, probably because in the turbulence, this is the stuff that settled out, and it would make sense. Although you'd think the clay would settle out higher up, not lower down. But why it is just clay, and I mean, this is the biggest rock I found, that's why I picked it up. It caught my eye. But this little tiny pulverized, tumbled material right down there along the base. So the goal here will be to continue shoveling out this arc. I'll get the saw out, I'll begin cutting, and then the jackhammer to break that. I'll backfill this with some gravel to make a French drain, so that this collected water can then filter into the topsoil. It's where it would have gone anyways. Naturally, the water was hitting this shelf and sliding down, and it apparently was hitting a shelf out in there and sliding off in that direction. So I'm not actually altering any underground course. I'm just going to bring the water into a dry sump well right there, give it a place to disperse. Once this is covered over, it won't collect water quite like this anyways. But yeah, so that's how Glacial Lake Missoula's. I mean, look at them canyons. I mean, I'd have been under 1,000 feet of just fast flowing water. I'd have been turned into pink scum in an instant, a blink of an eye, just ground up as that torrent of water came through. The big ice dam was down and around, so it'd be out that way. And then this all would have backfilled up, though there is no shoreline indications on any of these slopes. So the last time she went, she She scraped all the shoreline aspect off of any of these hills. I have not found any shoreline indications. So, what a staggeringly violent event.